I know I've had a lot of cases where I'll be in settings and people are intimidated by me. And on occasion, if I get close to somebody and they tell me that they were intimidated by me, you know, I'll say, like, I try to figure out, like, why was it? And I realize part of it is just because I look at them in the eyes. I look at them in the eyes, and that's so intimidating. It's so intimidating. Because if you're unsure of yourself, if you're not living to the identity of your soul, if someone else told you that you're less than or something different than you know yourself to really be or forgotten that you are, when someone looks in your soul through your eyes, it's unsettling. You feel vulnerable. You feel scared. You feel naked. You feel like I'm going to see something that I'm not supposed to see. And you'd rather just sew it all back up inside, avert my eyes, and go on and talk to a human instead of to talk to a soul. But try it. Try it. When you find someone that's being not inclusive, you don't have to be mean. You don't have to be brute. You don't have to be anything dramatic. But just be gentle and look in their eyes. Look in their eyes. Look in their eyes. You have to be strong enough and courageous enough to look into their eyes. You have to get to the point that you feel confident enough in your own being that you can look in someone else's eyes. But how are they going to listen to anyone's idea of what a human is if you're not able to decide that this is the truth? If you can't look in somebody's eyes when you're making a suggestion about another way of being, how are they going to believe you? Because you don't believe you. So you have to believe you first. And when you continue to believe you, others will believe you too. I was really excited about the possibility of the Women's March in January. And we actually changed the date of our event so that it wouldn't conflict with the Women's March. The year before us, we changed the date. And then that day, you know, I don't watch the news, but that day, because I felt something was being shown to the world that hadn't been shown in exactly this way before. It was a movement that didn't have a definable enemy or trigger or impetus. It didn't have a single defining moment. No one had actually done anything, right? It was just a transition and a supposed transition of how it would go. So this was really interesting to me. No one's coming out against anything that had particularly happened to them directly. But here's the thing. So what we did was because I wanted to really scan it and stay in touch with that day. And I knew a lot of clients that were participating, whatever city they were in. I knew a lot of people participating, men and women. I knew a lot. So that was kind of cool to me too. So we found this program that would keep going back and forth to wherever the most prominent activity was. So it scanned. It went to Paris. It went to England. It went to D.C. It went to New York City. It went to Chicago. It went to L.A. And whatever there seemed to be the most, they would hone in on that. And for the beginning of the day, I was so excited. I was so excited. And then I started to listen to the speeches. And I didn't hear them all, so I only can report back on the ones that I did hear. And it was a lot of angry people yelling at a lot of people. Mm-hmm. And that's not where we want to be. That's not where we want to be. I really want you to find a 6-year-old that's going to eat the broccoli when you say, eat the broccoli. It's good for you. Eat the broccoli now. They might eat it, but as soon as you're not around, they're never, ever, ever, ever going to eat that broccoli again. Ever. Okay? You can't get something done by being angry and yelling at people and telling them that they're less than. Inclusiveness means there is no separation. We have to invite people into there being no separation. We can't narrate it. We can't fight it. It's not a fight. It's a choice. It's an invitation. It's an opportunity. It's an opportunity. Invite people into the opportunity of inclusiveness. That's our role. No more all matter, and that we all matter equally. So for next month, we're going to be looking at our own souls a little bit more, but in the meantime, keep looking at the world through this lens in this month, because it's important that your light is on too. It's important that you're conscious, remain conscious, be consciously aware of your view of the things that happen. If you want any more evidence that we're heading into this place of inclusiveness, all you have to do is look at how quickly what the hot topic is of the week, the month, the year, the decade. Back in just a few decades ago, the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, any topic that was emerging, it took a really long time for more than a few people to talk about it, more than just an article in the newspaper. For it to really become known, it would take years for it to become known. Now it just takes a little tiny, tiny, tiny bit of time. Enlightenment is happening so rapidly that these topics are happening more quickly than we can even wonder what happened to the last topic. So everything from gay rights to transgender to gay rights, marriage equality, every single thing that's been rising so fast with such a tremendous amount of visibility. The reason these topics are coming up so fast and so furiously is because our souls know that it's time for everyone to understand that everyone matters. Our souls are tired of separation and boxes and categories and judgment. We're tired of it. It's played out. Been there, done that. We haven't gotten to a very good place by doing that. I had a client, she's, I have two sisters that are clients, and their parents were from, I'm sorry to say, I can never remember if it's Switzerland or Sweden, but let's go with Sweden. So, they got the whole thing, the blonde hair, blue eyes, they're like 6'11", you know? They look like models, they're just like, wow. So they want me to do a session with their mom, who's like in her mid-80s. And I'm like, wow, this is going to be really interesting, right? Born and raised in Sweden, came here when she was like 30. She's not 30 anymore. So I'm like prepped. I don't know what's going to happen. Luckily, I don't have to plan it out. And when she sat down with me, she was like 6'11", stunning, blue eyes, blonde hair, drop dead gorgeous. And so we happened to get onto this side topic because she was living in New York City. So we were talking about, like, how does it feel to live in New York City after being born and raised where you were born and raised? Do you miss it? Do you miss it, right? That's what we're talking about. And she's like, hell no. I have never seen so much sameness in my entire life as in that country. They look alike, they talk alike, they think alike. They all have the same income, they all have the same car. He's like, yes. She said, I know everybody thinks we're so happy, but it's really boring. New York City is where I belong. I was like, yeah. I never thought of it that way before. She's like, hell no, I'm not going back. All right, high five. High five. It is a high five. Or a low five. My high five. It's just interesting to think differently, right? It's different. It's a different way of thinking. That's what you're going to think about all month. And in the meantime, I'm going to put these names in something that I can't see into, and we're going to read a couple of people. Anybody have a...
There you go. There's a bowl right there.
Or cups
Oh, yeah,
back
the
there.
bowl.
Yeah, but I can see that.
But you're not
It's
going to be
so
able to see
big.
people's names. Should you
Yeah.
you could turn it
Grab a coffee cup.
Oh, I can do that. I'll put it in. I'll put it in where I can't see it. I'll put it in here. I did this last week. I had a seminar. There was 100 people at a seminar I did, and I did this at the end of the night. Do you know that everyone thought it was fixed because if who got called, who got kicked out?
And you said, yes, it is.
Yes, I did. I let the universe in that night. So everyone thought it was fixed. Like, really? Do I strike you as the kind of person that's about to fix this?
Slide his hand.
It says, what do I want it to say? It says Anne.
Oh.
Anne. Oh, so do you have any particular question?
I do.
Ah.
I did a very brief past life regression last night.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, but I didn't really understand it. So what I got out of it was I was a female. I'm going to say it was, I don't really know, like maybe 1800, like late 1800s, maybe early 1900s. I don't know. But I saw myself getting like stabbed, like through the hand, like a sword, something. I don't know how. I don't know what. I was a female. I don't know if I said that. But somehow I thought it got turned into everybody else thought that maybe I did this to myself, and that I felt like I was not understood. Like people were talking. I could tell. Like I could say I died young. But at like the funeral, people were like nobody like cared about me. They came, but they're all like talking trash about me, basically. So it's like I was totally misunderstood and not appreciated. So somehow something flipped. Where can you explain any of that to me?
I can.
Good question. Good question.
You can. Okay, that's it is fixed. You get one question and one question. Okay, all right. So what I'm seeing is, I'm seeing that in that Earth life, and I actually think your timing is like pretty accurate, 1800s, early 1900s. In that lifetime, I can see that you're raised in a family where you have a lot of siblings, you know, like more than a dozen siblings, okay? And as would anyone in that circumstance, you're either going to be invisible or you're going to have to find some unique identifiable feature about yourself to get some attention. And you did feel very, very invisible. In your birth order, you were particularly surrounded by brothers, so the girls kind of fell away from you, so this kind of put you in the middle of this whole big boy batch, which was less appealing to your parents to be a girl in the middle of all that. They found the boys far more interesting. So throughout your life, you would do things. I guess your family calls you a hypochondriac, okay? So you would do things and have real drama when nothing was really going on, okay? And I can actually see, I'm looking at something, I feel like we're near a fence. There's some kind of a fence, and there are things that are holding other things up, and the fence is made of wood and metal, all right? And I don't know why it's made of wood and metal, but it's in disrepair. And so some of the stuff, there's like a metal sheet on the fence, and I can feel like when you're opening the gate, because the fence is in disrepair, part of the metal comes and falls onto your hand, okay? It cuts, it doesn't cut it off or anything like that, but it cuts your hand severely, bleeding and all that. So you had a little bit of this, the boy that cries wolf syndrome. So now when you run in the house and you've got this blood and this hand and this mess, and you're screaming and shouting, no one's paying attention to you. And they're thinking it's fake blood, or they're thinking it's this, or they're thinking that you cut it yourself to get the blood going. And that's the moment that you're brought into. Why is it that people don't believe that this is real, or why do they think I did it to myself? In the meantime, it was severe enough that even like some tendons were cut. Like before we had the medical capability of you actually repairing this hand. So as it did repair and it was treated, the wound itself was treated, your hand was never the same again. And so the scars and the lack of mobility, and you would have pain in 3 of your fingers for the rest of your life, was a constant and never-ending reminder of the boy that cried wolf syndrome. And instead of using it to ignite you to feel that you had to be who you are and get attention, exactly everything we're talking about tonight, right? You used it as a way to feel shame and become more withdrawn and feel less visible rather than to feel like it ignited you into letting go of needing that kind of attention from other people. So when you're glancing back at the lifetime and you say nobody was interested when you died, that's the flavor of the whole life, is just that's kind of summarizing how you felt in that earth life. It's not that it was true, it's summarizing how you felt.
I could feel I was very alone, so I did, yeah, I guess I withdrew.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting. Everyone expects to find these beautiful tales when we go back in history and we find our other selves, but, you know, history is very, very bleak, and we are evolutionary. So it certainly makes a lot of sense that you're having a better lifetime now than in any of your other lifetimes. You might have had some really good and happy moments, but for the most part, you know, we endured a lot in our travels on the earth, you know? And so we generally weren't able to open the knocks on the door from the universe to the wisdom that they were trying to enlighten us with. We would usually slam the door on the universe and say, I'm going to do it my way, but then we would stay in this perpetual state of unhappiness or being stuck and not moving forward and not letting the soul grow. But now, this is all different, right? I mean, now we're finding more and more pockets of people that let the soul grow. So when something knocks on your door that's unpleasant, at least we know how to help each other to open the knock on the door and interpret it and make value of it. But that's an example of how you were relatively young when that happened. The universe gave you this really prominent capability of shifting your thinking and being and your self-love. But like a lot of times when we get a knock on the door, we interpret it in exactly the opposite way. Woe is me, right? And then we go forward with that feeling of being less than or feeling shame instead of feeling like, oh, you know what? It's designed to snap you out of that state of hypnosis. That is interesting that you saw all that. Yeah. Really interesting. But you have no problem letting your consciousness fly, really, you know? Yeah, no problem letting it fly. And you didn't live very long in that lifetime, but who would want to, right? Well,
Yeah.
Insane. Get rid of this. Move on to another. Now I feel, let me try this one on. Okay, we're running out of time, so I want to make sure I read at least, unless anyone has to leave, I'm going to hold you after class. I'll do 2 more. Does that sound fair?
Yeah.
I should have stopped sooner, so I could have read more. And every time I do this, I say, I'll read more next month. And then no one tells me to read more. I'm still talking with. Okay, we have John.
There you go.
I'm John. I'm John Webb. Yeah.
How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
Welcome.
Yeah, thanks for having me, and thanks for being here, and thanks for sharing. So, what do? I ask a question?
Ask a question. Anything you're curious about?
About a past life or something?
Anything. The universe.
Relationship.
Mini reading.
Yeah.
Okay.
I knew you were going to get picked. I really honestly
Get a
did.
new person.
I knew John would get picked. I don't know how I knew it.
Because it's fixed.
Just typing. I'm sorry.
So, all right, so, in any of my past life, was I ever a female?
Oh, yes.
I could have answered that.
I think just about everybody in the room could have answered that. So, I'll elaborate. I'll elaborate, because, yeah, it's not, yeah.
Everyone laughed at me.
No. We just all, most of us in this room understand that in order to become whole, it's important that we not be myopic and only seeing ourselves in one version of our own expression of our identity physically, right? So we'll get myopic if we only see one over and over and over again. So the universe is not going to let us replicate the same circumstances that much. So we have to try on new stuff to see how it fits, okay? As a matter of fact, when I make fun of like the historical men who had all the power and ruined our world, I am allowed to make fun of it. I'm allowed to make fun of anything in history because I could have been that man, right? So I'm not really judging anything. It could have been me. Well, I know. Okay, so I can quickly see in even the last 400 years, 4 opportunities that you were female, okay? And in the last 400 years, I can see 2 opportunities that you were male, this being your 3rd now. So just in that time span, in 400 years, you had female 4 times and male 3 times, okay? And that's just this, all right? I'm going back to, and sometimes I can get a lot of detail, sometimes detail's a little fuzzy, but I'm getting a lot of detail. The year is 1810. How I got a year that specific, it almost never ever happens. But maybe there's something researchable. I'll tell you more and we'll see if it's researchable. You were female, and in 1810, you were 17 years old. You were living in the United States, up in the Northeast. It feels like outside of Boston. Wow, that's really specific, okay? 17 years old in 1810. Give me plus or minus 5 years. And wow, you, I don't know enough about history. I'm going to just do the best I can because I can't interpret it historically. The only thing that I can tell you is, oh, I wish I was born deaf. I'm going to sound like a fool for a minute, okay? Pretend I'm really smart. No judgment! Okay, there were people that fought for England, and then there were people that fought for the colonies.
Fine.
I can't do both things at the same time.
Okay, we'll help.
Okay. So, the ones that came from England, for some reason, some of them stayed after the war. This is what doesn't make any sense to me. I don't know why they would stay. Wouldn't you think they would just go back home? This is why I'm a little lost in my frame of reference. But apparently some of the fighters for England, maybe they converted, I don't know. But they're still here, and they're still in that area. And when you are 17 years old, one of the men that fought, you have a relationship with him. He's significantly older than you. I don't know what he's still doing here, but it's a big turning point in your life. I don't think it was initially consensual, but eventually it became consensual. I think sometimes like that whole captor-captive kind of syndrome thing that goes on. And it's an interesting thing because as you would continue to live your life and continue to know this man, your lens of perception about being female, what rights you had to making your own choices about marriage or sex, it interplayed against the backdrop of the birth of a nation. So it was kind of weird how like you were growing in this growing nation and everybody was so unsure, and your backdrop of being female in what was turning out to be a very, very male world, the birth of our nation. It's just so fascinating the way it interplayed against each other. And as you got older and were able to be more liberated in how you would choose the course of your life, you actually were very philosophical about it, about you being raised with the nation being raised. And you became really introspective about it too in your later years. really reflecting upon what it was like to be a young girl. I never thought about what's it like to be a girl born the same year virtually that our country is born. It's interesting, isn't it? But you were very, very reflective of that, almost poetic about it and philosophical. But in that lifetime, which isn't that long ago in the scheme of things, it was just really difficult for you to be human on any level because you had already been relatively spiritually evolved. And by relatively, I mean there's always going to be those of us who are more connected to our souls and our human experience than most of humanity is. And you already had that property net. And as an evolutionary being, that means that there's a great likelihood that that's still a property about you. Okay? That's one example of you being female. You asked. That was interesting. When I go into something like that, I just want to know more and more. Why can't I remember anything about the Revolutionary War now? Why would they stay? Why would they stay?
Maybe the boats.
Children.
Huh?
They have children.
Oh, maybe. Or a wife or something.
Yeah.
Freedom.
Yeah, freedom.
Go
Yeah, right?
back to England, it's
Yep.
Anyway, I just never
Kind of
thought of it,
society.
history in those terms
They also could have
before.
brought
Back to
ships
England was a
though,
king.
and I had enough room on a ship to go back either.
Interesting. It's all interesting. I'm so
Maybe they had a
fascinated
family
with
back
that.
in England they didn't want to go back.
Oh, yeah. That one. That one.
Start over.
She'll never catch me here.
All right. All right, one more. Okay. The pressure's on. Whoever you are, you better make it very interesting.
Yeah, ready?
I knew this one too. That's so freaky, Bill. I just knew it. I just knew it. All right, Bill.
Well, give me a female past life.
Oh, now that would really be up to you. Okay, let's find you somewhere.
Do you see like everything in it goes?
Yeah. Yes. Already I could see where we're going. I knew we were going to the early 1700s. So we're going by timeline today mostly. And you guys have seen me do this a lot. I might have a century or a few decades, things narrowed down to, but I generally don't get a year. But now I know the year again. And it's right around 1740. I have no idea what was going on in the world in 1740 whatsoever. 1740, that's like,
Weird number.
what a weird number.
What country are we in?
All right, we're definitely in Europe. That I can see some of the things that might be typical of that setting. I see cities that are starting to sprawl. I see a lot of Belgian block and cobblestone and things like that. I can see buildings getting a little bit taller, a little bit closer together. So I definitely know we're in Europe. I don't know what the disease is, but in I keep seeing the city that you live near. You are female. I keep seeing the city that you live near. I keep seeing it like dark. I know it's not just because I'm coming into one moment in time where it was night, right? I just feel like there's a darkness, and as I'm staying there for a minute, I can feel that the darkness is coming from pain. That there's been a lot of pain, and it feels disease-related pain. I mean, it's obviously not the Black Plague. That wasn't in 1740, but it feels like there was some kind of disease that had a major effect on people. And where I'm coming into you right there, huh?
Smallpox.
Oh, maybe. I don't know. I really don't know. But I see you. You look like you're about 20 years old, and your betrothed died from whatever this illness is. As a matter of fact, we say 20, and you should have been married already. You're like an old bag by now. So where I'm being brought into, you just really are an old. Everyone treats you like you're an old. Put her out to pasture, become a librarian, and start knitting Afghans. And so what? Here your whole life, there was only one assumption, that you would meet someone or your family would find someone for you. You'd court, you'd get engaged at 17, you'd be married by 18. there was no other, plan, there was no other design, there was no other frame of reference, because there was no other frame of reference. So now, here you are, after you go through the loss of him before you got married, you're not a widow. So you have no permission for sympathy. You have no one saying, I'll introduce you to the widow. All you are now is a single woman that's unmarried at 20. So it's a whole different definition, because you didn't lose your husband. You only lost your betrothed. So it's fascinating that one simple difference made all the difference. So from that moment on, people judged you. They didn't introduce you to their sons. They didn't take you around and say you were marriageable because you were too old to get married.
What, life expectancy was probably 40 or something like that.
Amazing,
Yeah,
right?
20.
Something interesting. Simple little things you just don't think about in history, right? Fascinating.
What happened to him in his lifetime?
She did not get married. You did not get married.
No.
Did not get married.
So what happened to the rest of the...
Well, that's kind of sad, Bill.
Or maybe
maybe
not.
Life, huh? Sad, Bill.
When you became a doting aunt, and you're really good with your nieces and nephews, and you took care of your parents, and did all that other stuff. But make you feel better. I can see that when you were in your 30s, when you were in your late 30s, you actually, huh?
That's old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like nearly dead.
That's
So I can see that you actually wind up having a physical relationship with a man in your late 30s.
Yay!
I think you're the inspiration for the 40-year-old version. Well, we had to swap it up. We didn't want to do the female bit again. We had to do it with the male this time. So you were the Hollywood inspiration because someone channeled that life with you. There you go.
I mean, from 20 to 39?
No,
Nothing?
Nothing. Now, here's what's really interesting.
And wait, was that the first sexcapade?
Yes. Totally first.
Not even with the betrothal?
Nothing.
That's good.
Nothing. She was a good girl.
I thought that too.
But what's interesting is this shows you like how patterns of lives really work. We would love a romantic ending that he finally marries you and you have a couple of kids and all that, but it doesn't work out that way. No. What did happen was the shame that you felt. The shame that you felt in losing your virginity out of marriage reignited the shame that you felt in being an old maid at 20. So having sex created the same damn cycle of how you felt when you were in your 20s. That's kind of a weird loop. You really looped that one around.
Really?
The universe knocks on your door, like, how can I make this fantastic opportunity as miserable as humanly possible? I know.
Are you making it up for your life, Bill?
And then I died.
Boy, that lying years of suffering first.
You lived to 70.
That was the year the life you lived to 100.
The oldest woman ever.
There's probably a statue for you.
Gotta find that city, go back.
Thanks for letting me be so entertaining with you. I did. Yeah, I did try to make a little bit more fun with it because it actually is really sad. Yeah. Oh, it's sad. What you gotta get me on with? Yeah. Marie looked it up. It's venereal disease. I'm sorry.
I was just playing.
Okay. Anyway, but the one thing that I could see being important to you in this lifetime as a result of that lifetime is to help other people not lapse into any feeling of shame, okay? Shame it's a life-eating emotion that really doesn't bring us to any productive place, and it's probably the most difficult emotion. And since the world, your culture, put shame on you the first time, and then you redefined yourself as being shameful the second time, you had pretty much a bulk of your existence in that lifetime in that body feeling something that can't ever, ever be a win, can't ever give you freedom, can't ever let you feel satisfied or happy. Something that you wind up trying to become less than or invisible or anything. But it does help you to see insights into, be quiet, Joe.
I don't want to know you in my past life.
Oh, what are you? She kept her hand.
I don't want to know.
No, but it does help you get some insights into like why, you know, you're compassionate and you care about other people, because I come from that experience. You know, everyone should have freedom of choice. Everyone should be allowed to have their life by design, and that's part of the reason why that's a conviction for you in this lifetime. Okay?
Thank you.
You're welcome. On a happier note, I did exaggerate it a little because it was a little funny. Hey, and you got chosen. You did that. You, your guide to the universe. All right, thank you, everybody. Just so you know, also for the upcoming rest of the meetings for the year, July through December. On occasion, we'll be doing something so fun, hands-on-y. When you register, if you register online, there might be a small materials fee too. But still, just come, and I promise it'll be worth it, so don't mind putting an extra couple of dollars in your cart, okay? But we do have some very, very fun, hands-on things that are going to be coming up. All right, you're not going to either know till you get here or till you register online, but they're going to be there, and they're going to be fun. So, come back.